Hey, thanks for being here. I'm Stefan, and in this video I'd like to share a quick overview of my current workflow for creating my 3D animated BADMOTIONS videos. Specifically, the Cool Story Bro music video. If you haven't watched it yet, please check it out. I talk about character design, clothing, hair, rigging, animation, music production, and everything I do to create this using mostly free to low-cost tools. This video is aimed at beginners with a basic knowledge of 3D software and the underlying concepts. This is not going to be a step-by-step tutorial. If you'd like me to dive deeper into certain topics, please let me know. Feel free to also share your thoughts and questions in the comments. By the end of this video, you should have a solid understanding of the steps necessary to build a workflow that allows you to tell your stories and potentially get inspired to start your own creative journey. Note that this is the current state of my experimentation with this, and things are already changing behind the scenes a bit for the upcoming videos. Nonetheless, I thought it could be interesting to show you this, so here we go. A puppet character for my videos is always made up of multiple modular parts. Let me first show you these parts, and then we can get into how I create them. Each puppet has a wooden body with this huge head. Based on the character, there is different clothing for the body, different hairstyles, eyebrows, and noses for the face. Each of them can be exchanged easily so that I can create and adapt them quickly. The concept and design behind it is a mix of stylization and realism. Stylization in the sense that it is obviously not a real human character, but rather a puppet. But the realism comes from the way it is built, how it's supposed to move and how it looks. It should use real-world materials such as wood, fabric and so on to make it seem like a puppet that could actually exist like this. But it is also a balance act of going for attempted realism while still keeping my workflow light, performant and nimble. Let's start with the hair. For that I work in Blender, which is a free open source 3D creation suite supporting the entirety of the 3D pipeline, including modeling, rigging, animation, simulation, rendering, compositing and motion tracking. I use it mostly for polygon modeling and in this case hair grooming. There are different ways of creating hair in Blender. I have chosen the geometry nodes based workflow. Geometry nodes is a system for modifying the geometry of an object with node based operations, so little function blocks connected by wires. This makes it flexible and more controllable for me. A hairstyle starts with so-called guide hairs that I can freely place on the head of my character. Then I can use a virtual comb to style the hair how I want it to look like, basically changing and adapting its shape. With modifiers I can then fill in the rest of the sculpt, clump hairs together, add frizz, etc. This makes it look more random and realistic. Once I am finished, I can export the hair and import it into the Unreal Editor, which is where most of the magic happens. The Unreal Editor is based on Unreal Engine and is the tool that professionals use to create games, VFX, animations, architecture and product visualizations, virtual and augmented reality experiences, and so much more. It is created by Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite, which is also built with Unreal Engine. I have used this for many years in various industries for client and personal projects, and I've also trained a lot of people on how to use the engine for their specific workflows. Inside of the Unreal Editor, I can change the thickness and material of the hair, which controls what color it has, how it reacts to light, and how it looks. I can also add physics so that the hair behaves like actual hair strands, flexing and bouncing based on the movement of the head. This adds secondary motion to the movement of my puppets and adds some visual interest. The eyebrows are simple polygonal meshes, so no actual hair strands, because the shapes read way better this way, I feel like. They can adjust their shape based on the facial expression of a puppet. Sad, angry, surprised, etc. This is done by using so-called morph targets, or blend shapes, which are essentially different states of a mesh that can be blended in between. They are made out of felt-like fabric, so the material should look accordingly. Based on the hair color, they will have different colors, of course. The eyes are essentially googly eyes that are taped to the wooden head of the character. They also have morph targets for their various states, such as look left, right, up, down, and blinking. I promise I will get into how I animate this all later. The blinking is a bit special, since it is based on a morph target, but the geometry does not change. Rather, the morph target is connected to a material that opens and closes the eyelids with a mask. I've had actual moving polygons for the eyelids before, but they were hard to control and didn't look how I wanted to, so that's why I made a change. The noses are also polygonal meshes that are placed so that they can be just swapped out to give the character a different facial look. The nose is part of the face that makes up a lot of the uniqueness of one of my puppets, since the head shape, the ears and the eyes stay mostly the same. Here you can see how I can just select which nose shape I want to use for my character, and it changes this instantly. The mouth is essentially a mask-shaped geometry that is attached to the head with textures of different mouth shapes that get exchanged based on the puppet's facial expression. The idea behind it is that for each expression, a sticker with a different mouth shape would be taped onto the puppet's face when someone would animate them in the real world, stop-motion style, similar to shows like Robot Chicken. The rest of the head stays the same. Some characters may wear hats, others might wear glasses or other headwear in the future, but we'll get to that when we'll get to that. For the body, I am using the UEFN mannequin skeleton mesh that comes with some of the free Unreal Engine samples as a basis for all of my puppets, since it has exactly the look I was going for. Humanoid shape, yet hard surface, non-bendable limbs attached to sphere joints so that the movement is not restricted too much. I only wanted this bigger head because I find the proportions funny. Just slap some wood on that and you're good to go. The advantage of making use of the UEFN mannequin is also that a lot of animations and systems for this already exist, such as the game animation sample, that I could make use of should I choose to do so. Currently, a lot of what I do is pretty custom though. A lot of the custom look of a character is due to the clothing. Since I wanted to be able to have a wide range of characters with different styles of clothing, I wanted to find a good, quick and efficient solution for that. Since my modeling is mostly done in Blender, as this is the 3D tool I'm most familiar with, I try to make use of Blender's cloth tool with the sewing functionality. There you can create basic shapes and connect them with edges that are meant to be sewn together. This gets simulated and collides with any object you tell it to. The idea is that the clothing then wraps around the body naturally based on physical values. But the results were not what I was looking for. To be clear, this could always also be due to lack of skill. Clothing that looks at least a bit realistic is really hard to model, with all of the folds and how it falls on a body. I also played around with Blender's cloth sculpt brushes, which are awesome by the way, but I couldn't get to a result that I liked. Then, through sheer coincidence, I found a video about a completely free tool that can create clothing for 3D characters. This is Jinny. It is made by the company that also creates Clo3D, one of the most prominent and powerful 3D clothing software solutions out there, that is used by 3D artists and fashion designers alike. It is a very simple piece of software that aims to take all of the complexity out of clothing creation, yet delivers a powerful simulation engine that lets you drape cloth on top of 3D characters realistically. Here I can select articles of clothing and add them to my design. I can then simulate physics and while simulating, drag on the fabric to give me the look that I like. Truly an awesome tool, and even though I am learning it from scratch, it has already saved me a lot of time and no doubt put the output quality of my 3D clothing assets on a completely different level. In the Unreal Editor, I can then add materials to the clothing and combine it with the body so that I have one object for the puppet's body. I am using the Mutable framework for this, which is a system that can create character customization systems, like you have seen in many games before. Mutable is a really cool and powerful tool where I have merely scratched the surface. It is meant to be used to build modular characters that can also be changed and built during runtime. My puppets are also supposed to be modular, but for now I just use Mutable to merge my body meshes together. With my headless body meshes done, I create a blueprint class, which is essentially a container where I can put multiple components in and combine them into one object, while still being able to access them individually and also add interactive logic to them. In there, I can build up my character and set it up for recording and animation. Did I just say recording? Yep, a lot of my character's movements are not animated by hand. I control the movements through various means and then use the take recorder in the Unreal Editor to record animation sequences from this. These I can then edit and arrange to create my finished animation. For the drummer, for example, I created a few simple poses and built some logic so that when I press buttons on my Xbox controller, he hits the hi-hat, snare drum or the crash cymbal. Since you don't see him very well during the video, creating animations for the feet or more variations for different drums was not necessary. Additionally, I used the LiveLink Face app on iOS, which is essentially using Apple's Memoji technology to track my face through my front camera and then send this data over to the Unreal Editor where I can do whatever I want with it. I can rotate the head from it, which I do for the drummer, and I can use the data for the morph targets I created for the various face components, such as the eyes and eyebrows. For the mouth shapes, I also use that data, but I don't drive morph targets from it. Instead, the animation blueprint tells a control rig which mouth shape to use, which in turn tells it to the material, which then selects the corresponding sprite from the sprite sheet. Sounds complicated, but it works. For the other characters, including the guitarist and bassist of the band, I use my MetaQuest 2 virtual reality headset for full body motion tracking. The VR headset gives me data for the movement of the head and hands, including the fingers. This I can apply to my character, but there's a lot of adapting the data from the different coordinate spaces and stuff. This was by far the most complex thing to do. Additionally, I have built a control rig that uses the head position to adjust the height of the pelvis of the puppet while the feet stay on the floor, which makes it possible for me to crouch. Another addition is the locomotor, which I have already done a quick tutorial on when it was first released. You can check this out here. In this case, I use it to make the character take simple steps when the head moves too far off from its origin point. It does not look perfect, but part of the BADMOTIONS concept is embrace the jank. So if it works, it works. For the guitar players, including the bassist, I also created a simple control rig that aims an object always towards another object. This way, I could just record the guitar playing motion with my VR motion capture setup, then attach the look at object in the character's right hand so that it moves with it. And the guitar would adapt to the movement automatically, which saves me a lot of time. It might clip into the puppet's body sometimes, but that doesn't matter. For me to have some motion to record, I first needed to write, record and produce the Cool Story Bros song. Songwriting is something I really love doing. It's such an awesome and creative process, where I can just let my ideas run free, try stuff out and build out my ideas. I am using Logic Pro for my music recording and production, since that is for me the easiest and most frictionless. I can just create my tracks and record. I record all of the instruments myself. The guitars are actual instruments, sometimes I also play the bass on an actual bass. But mostly I use virtual instruments because they are quicker for me to get my ideas out. With them I can just press keys on my keyboard and the instruments then sound like a drum, bass, piano or whatever I want. I record my voice using the Shure SM7B microphone. In this song I have sung the main vocals as well as the backing and choir vocals.
Cool story bro, cool story bro. Why you think I care? I guess we'll never know. Cool story bro, cool story bro. Why you think I care? I guess we'll never know.
After some mixing and effects, I bounce the song out and put it through the Logic Pro Master Assistant, which gives it its final polish and makes it sound loud enough and fat. I'm by no means a professional music producer. For me, this is a tool to quickly get the ideas out of my head and into something people can listen to. The less time I spend on fine-tuning things or obsessing over details people might not even care about, the more time I can spend on things that are actually important to me. Nothing should ever break my creative flow. After recording the motion to the song, assembling the scene, and placing the characters in there, I create a level sequence, which is similar to a timeline in a video editor, like Davinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, or if you're really masochistic, Adobe Premiere Pro. In there I can combine the animations and adjust them as I see fit. For example, I have placed the elbows of the guitarist and bassist so that they don't clip into the guitars as much. I also have an audio track of the song in there to be able to work to the music. I can also place cameras and animate them to make it all a bit more dynamic. The universe particle system that I've built for this video is animated in here too. I didn't go into particle systems in this video. I've done tutorials about Niagara, Unreal Engine's particle system, in the past, so feel free to check them out. If you want to learn more about this one specifically, just let me know. For some movements, like the blah 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 calls at the start, I wanted very specific things, so I hand animated these using the mannequin body control rig that comes for free with an Unreal Engine sample. Without diving too deep, I can individually control each body part with the control rig and set keyframes at specific points in time. The movement in between keyframes then gets interpolated. Once I'm done with my animation, cameras, lights, effects and everything, I render the video out at 12 frames per second to give me that stop motion style look with the movie render queue, which gives me an image sequence. I edit the final video in Davinci Resolve Studio, which is the paid version of Davinci Resolve. But what I have done here should also be possible with the free version. Here I can put all of the shots together, adjust things, add texts, overlays or effects, and then render out the final video that gets uploaded to YouTube. Time for a quick recap. My puppet characters are built from modular pieces that I can easily exchange. And I have built a workflow that allows me to quickly and iteratively create new assets for them, using Blender for polygonal modeling and hair grooming, and Jinny for clothing creation. In the Unreal Editor, everything is assembled. Logic is added, movement is recorded, and things are animated, then lit and rendered. In Davinci Resolve, the final video is then edited and rendered out before it's uploaded to YouTube. If you have gotten this far in the video, thank you. I hope you found it interesting and got something out of it. The goal of this whole BADMOTIONS project is to have a creative outlet for myself and share my songs and stories with the world, but also to show how easy it can be to do so and potentially inspire you to create something yourself. As I said, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a like and share it around. If you don't want to miss what I'm creating next, you should consider subscribing. It's free, you know. As always, thanks for watching. See ya.